back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking with Sharon Roberson. She is the president and CEO of the YWCA of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. It is the largest provider of domestic violence services in the state of Tennessee. Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and there is certainly a lot to talk about. We've really set the table well in this first part of the show, and I want to ask you now for some specific cases. Obviously leave the names out, but some cases that would be helpful to those watching that you have seen and that would shed some light on kind of this overall issue.
Okay, I'll put together some things that are a mixture of several people's experiences. And this happens often. An individual who is a survivor knew that she should not be around her abuser. She had become very savvy. She knew this person was dangerous. She was told not to be around them by herself. Time had passed, and she was used to the angry version of her abusers. You've left me, threatening phone calls, etc. But everything has settled down, and it had been really over a couple of years. And the person all of a sudden showed up and said he just wanted to talk to her. It was very calm and seemed nice, and that reminded her of when she first met this person. She let the person into the home, and she was there being tortured. And but for her child running next door, and this is a very young child, like a 5-year-old, to the neighbors and said, "My daddy is killing my mommy." And he didn't even know this person. And the neighbors called the police, and but for that, she would have lost her life, but she ended up being in the hospital for quite some time.
Oh my goodness. Now, this is
really, really, really interesting. Her father, now not his father, the abuser, not the abuser's father, the victim's or survivor now, father said, well, he's just upset, made excuses for the man. He hasn't been able to see his children. He's lost everything, and that's hard for a man, and made excuses for him and said maybe if she took him back and thought about it, he wouldn't do such. This is her sitting in the hospital. She was hospitalized based on how he treated her. That is a lot of pressure. She was out there without family support, without him, any sort of support from him, but she didn't want that, even though these were his children. And she really had to lean on a new family. And sometimes you have to reinvent your family. Her family became really other women who have been survivors. And those are her peer group. Other women are survivors, and there's a network, and they help each other. She remains true to people at the YW who have helped her over time, and these groups that you can go to even after you're not in shelter, therapy groups, where you talk about your experience, because other people have gone through this, and that's what people have to understand. You are not alone. You are going through what women go through all over the world. Literally, I have been on calls with women in other countries, in Ireland and England, and they're all going through this because it's about this whole power and control. So don't be down on yourself. Look at this and say, okay, I'm going to start anew, and I'm going to get some help.
Wow, there's so much to talk about there, but the father, that's what's deeply disturbing. And what do you suspect? Is there anything you can suspect when a father says that? I don't know. It makes me think he may be an abuser. I don't know. But I mean, do you?
Yeah, well, she, as I said, women who witness this growing up are more likely to become victims. And her father probably was abusive toward her mother. I have been amazed, absolutely amazed at the number of people that have said, well, yeah, that happened. And they have some recollection of it, but it's almost as if they blanked it out of their minds because they knew it was happening. It's just, it was so harsh for children, and they just have selective memories.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then, okay, I don't know if that's a totally true story or not, but in that terrible scenario you just laid out.
That was true.
What happened to the man? So the police come, and the woman is being beaten badly, isn't taken to the hospital. What penalty, was he arrested? Is he in jail? What happened?
Now, fortunately, this person, with the help of the system, so to speak, of support for domestic violence victims. He was prosecuted. He was sent to prison for a while.
Okay.
He was. This was viewed as attempted murder, which made the stakes go higher. But you have to understand, there are so many women. I've talked to women who the person that kept their children while they worked was his mother. And so naturally, when you leave him, his mother's saying, well, come back and I'll help you or I'll make him act better. There are all these pressures on women to stay in the situation. Some of it's just simply you're embarrassed because, you think you put yourself in this situation, you have to live with it. Sometimes churches put pressure on trying to work out, and maybe if you're if you're doing right or the biblical wife, things will get better, but nothing in any religion dictates that you are to be abused by anyone else.
No, not at all. And so let's say somebody comes into your facility. Describe your facility. What is it? You said it's 60 days. That's very interesting. But describe your facility. How do they come into your facility? Can they just show up, or do they obviously need a call? How does all that work?
No. They call our crisis line and go through the process. And if they do need shelter, then they would come in. Now, if you're a lethality assessment call, even if we don't have beds available, we will put you in some sort of motel. We'll get you to safety. We'll work with you. There's also a network of a few other shelters in the area that we can work with you and get you there. When you come in, first of all, we take care of your physical needs. You'll have a nice, clean place to sleep. You'll have food available. Literally, people come in with just the clothes on their back and their children have nothing. And we get you what you need. And we start you off through the process of therapy. You're assigned a case manager that looks at your specific needs to make sure that you're taken care of.
And you're, again, president, CEO of the YWCA of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. Do you think people fully understand the YWCA does this to the extent that it does it?
I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding, and people think that, people think of shelters in the wrong way. And every tour I've ever given of our shelter, people are amazed because it's very much like a college like a college dorm. They look like dorm rooms. They have a wonderful kitchen, food, play area for the kids, a courtyard. And I guess they don't really understand what it is like. And what is the help that is available. And it's maybe because people are so isolated, they really have never thought about it. They've been so busy just surviving that they can't even think forward to getting some sort of help. But we also have other programs, though, too.
Right. Do you have enough beds currently? Is there enough supply out there to meet the demand here?
I would say no, and the reason for that is I really think that if we can give individuals 6 months or at least 90 days, everyone that needed it, we would have they would be on a path moving forward that would be a little bit stronger. But we'd have to turn down more people who did that.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. All right, we have time before we have to take a break here. Do you have another kind of example just recently? I guess today you were somewhere, right? I mean, this is Domestic Violence Month. Do you have another sort of example you could share?
Yeah.
Yeah, go right ahead with that, whatever you have.
Okay. Well, we have had an individual who wanted to come into shelter. And she didn't for a long time because every time she tried to come into shelter, her children and her dog were threatened. You'll never see them again. Children are really used as manipulation to keep people there. And the system sometimes can work against women. However, that's why we work very diligently with legal services to make sure that women have a fair chance with keeping their families together, keeping their children with them, even though they leave, because that threat is not one that you should take seriously. But women are often told, if you leave me, I'll get the kids, you'll never see them again. And that's difficult to overcome that fear, because often if you don't have a job, you don't have training, sometimes you don't have education, but those pieces are what we fit together to help women become stronger.
Wow. Okay. And yeah, you mentioned the pet shelter. We have to take a break now, but I want to come back and talk about that, because that's another aspect of what you all are doing, and it's really important in this conversation. All right, so we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.